You have visualized for months and nothing has moved. Neville Goddard would tell you the problem was never how much you imagined, but where you were standing while you did it. Picture the last time you sat down to see your wish come true. You watched a version of yourself, somewhere out ahead of you, receiving the thing you wanted. It looked beautiful. It also changed nothing. And tonight, you are going to understand exactly why. The error is so ordinary that almost no one sees it. You treat imagination the way you treat a film. You sit in the dark and you watch yourself succeed on a screen a few feet away. The scene is vivid, the lighting is perfect, and the whole time you are in the seat, and the life you want is up there on the wall, at a distance you never actually close. Neville called the real practice the Imaginal Act, and the entire correction lives in one word: position. You are not meant to watch the scene, you are meant to be inside it. Not looking at your hand being shaken, but feeling the grip close around your fingers. Not watching yourself hear the good news, but standing where the words arrive at your own ears. By the end of this video, you will know the single adjustment that separates months of pleasant, useless picturing from an imaginal act that actually moves the state. It is not more effort, it is a turn of the body, a step through the glass you have been pressed against without knowing it was there. Consider what you are actually rehearsing when you watch yourself from the outside. You see a figure who looks like you over there, holding the thing you long for. Your attention is fixed on that figure the way you would watch a stranger. And in that arrangement, quietly, a fact is confirmed every single time. The one who has it is not you. It is someone you observe. This is the trap, and it is almost invisible because it feels productive. You are picturing success, so surely you are doing the work. But the mind does not record the content of the picture alone. It records your relationship to it. And your relationship as a watcher is the relationship of a person still on the outside, looking in through the window at a life that belongs to someone else. Neville taught that imagination creates reality, and that means the state you actually occupy is the state that hardens into fact. If the state you occupy is longing, if it is watching and wanting, then longing and wanting is precisely what your world will go on reflecting back to you. The spectator remains a spectator. The window never opens. There is a cost here that goes past a single session. Every time you rehearse the wish from outside, you deepen the groove of separation. You practice the ache of not yet. You get better at wanting, more fluent in distance, and you call it manifesting. Months go by, the scene stays beautiful, and you stay in your seat. So the question is not whether you can build a more detailed picture. You can already do that. The question is whether you are willing to stop watching the picture and walk into it. Here is where most people go wrong when they try to fix their imagining. They assume the problem was clarity. They decide the scene was not sharp enough, not bright enough, not cinematic enough, so they pour their effort into making the picture more spectacular. They add detail, they add color, and still nothing moves, because they were solving the wrong problem all along. Neville's test for an imaginal act was never, does it look vivid? His test was, does it feel real? Those are two completely different measurements, and confusing them is what keeps sincere people stuck for years. A scene can be gorgeous and inert. A scene can be plain, half-lit, almost dull, and carry the full, unmistakable weight of a thing that has already happened. Think about how a real memory sits in you. When you remember a conversation from yesterday, you do not see it as a bright film in front of your face. You feel that it occurred. It has a texture of fact, a settled quality, a doneness. That felt quality of the accomplished is the target of the imaginal act, not spectacle, the quiet certainty of something that is simply true. This is why the whole game turns on sensation rather than sight. Sight keeps you at a distance, because to see a thing, you have to stand apart from it, positioned in front of it. Sensation collapses the distance, because to feel the grip of a hand, you have to be the one whose hand is being held. The moment you shift from looking to feeling, you have already stepped through the glass. So stop grading your scenes on how they look. A pretty picture watched from the outside will hold you exactly where you are. A plain scene felt from the inside will do the work. If watching is the disease, the Imaginal Act is the cure, and it is more precise than the word visualization ever suggests. In Awakened Imagination, published in 1954, Neville laid it out plainly. You construct a short scene that implies the wish is already fulfilled, and you enter it as a participant. Not a scene of getting, a scene of having, a moment that could only be happening if the thing were already done. This is the craft, and it rewards a little thought. You are not trying to imagine the whole arc of how your desire arrives. You are looking for one small, ordinary moment that sits just past the finish line. A friend saying the words they would only say if it were true. The weight of a key in your hand. A congratulation. A sentence spoken to you that assumes the fact without announcing it. The power lives in the word imply. A direct picture of the wish keeps the wish in view, and whatever you keep in view, you confirm you do not yet have. But a scene that merely implies the fact treats the fact as settled, as old news, as the unremarkable background of a moment about something else. Implication is how you tell the deeper mind that the argument is over. Keep it small. One handshake, one sentence, one glance is enough, and it is far more powerful than an epic. A short scene can be repeated until it saturates you. A long production can only be admired, and admiration is just watching again in a fancier costume. Before we go further, do something for yourself as you listen. If you catch your mind slipping back to watching instead of standing inside the scene, drop the words "I'm inside it now" in the comments. Naming the move is how you learn to make it. Now comes the switch that changes everything, and it is physical before it is anything else. You have your short scene. The question is where you are standing in it. In the spectator's version, you sit a few feet back, watching your own body receive the moment. In the Imaginal Act, you are behind your own eyes, and the moment is happening to you. Feel the difference in something concrete. Imagine someone reaching out to shake your hand. In the failed version, you see two people meeting, and one of them is you, viewed from across the room. In the real version, there is no figure of you at all, because you are not out there to be seen. You are here. You feel your arm extend. You feel their palm meet yours, the warmth, the pressure, the small motion of the shake. This is what first person means, and it is the hinge of the whole practice. There should be no image of your own face in the scene. There is no image of your face in your genuine experience of this present moment either. You do not watch yourself live, you live. The Imaginal Act asks you to live the wished-for moment from precisely that interior seat. Bring the other senses in behind the sight, because they are what convince the body. Hear the specific voice and the specific words. Feel the temperature of the room, the texture of what you are touching, the ground under your feet. Every sense you add is another witness testifying that this is real and this is now. When you get the position right, something quiet and unmistakable happens. The longing drops away. You cannot ache for what you are currently holding. That absence of wanting is not a trick. It is the signature of a state successfully entered, and it is the exact state Neville said becomes your world. There is a reason the test is feeling and not sight, and Neville gave that reason its own book. In Feeling is the Secret, written in 1944, he made the claim as directly as it can be made. The subconscious accepts as true whatever you feel to be true, and it is feeling, not the visual image, that does the impressing. The picture is only scaffolding. The feeling is the thing that gets built. This reframes the whole practice. You are not trying to produce a convincing movie for yourself to watch. You are trying to generate an actual feeling, the specific emotional tone of the wish already fulfilled. You sink into it until it is the truest thing in the room. The scene is only the doorway you walk through to reach that feeling. Once you are standing in the feeling, the scene has done its job. Ask yourself a plain question about your desire. Who would you be and how would you feel the hour after it was completely fulfilled? Not the fireworks of the first minute, but the settled tone underneath, the relief, the quiet security, the ordinariness of a problem that no longer exists. That settled tone is the target, and your scene is chosen precisely because it delivers you there. This is also why an honest, modest scene beats a grand one. The grand scene invites you to spectate, to enjoy the show. The modest scene, felt from inside, drops you straight into the tone of the accomplished fact without the distraction of admiring it. If this is landing for you, consider subscribing. There is a great deal more of this work here, and it goes deeper each week. You can have the perfect scene and the perfect feeling and still lose most of their power to a single thing: bad timing. During the ordinary waking day, the critical mind is awake with you. It argues, it compares your scene to your circumstances, notices the gap, and quietly files your imagining under wishful thinking. To slip past that guard, you need the moment when the guard itself grows drowsy. Neville called it the state akin to sleep, and it goes by its initials, SATS. It is the soft threshold you cross every night on the way down into sleep. Those are the drowsy, half-lit minutes when you are no longer quite awake and not yet asleep. In that state, the arguing mind loosens its grip. The felt scene sinks in without resistance, the way a suggestion offered to someone almost asleep slips past every objection. This is why the practice belongs at the edge of sleep. You get comfortable, you let the body grow heavy, and you wait for that drifting, weightless feeling to arrive. Then, without forcing anything, you enter your short scene. You feel it from the inside, and you let it play in a gentle loop as you fall. You are not straining to concentrate. You are letting a felt fact carry you down into sleep. The last thing you give your attention to before sleep has a long night to work. It sets the tone the deeper mind carries into the dark and returns with in the morning. Fall asleep watching your problems, and you instruct the night to rehearse them. Fall asleep inside the wish fulfilled, and you hand the night a very different assignment. There is a warning that has to come with this practice, because it is where most sincere people quietly fail. They do the imaginal act at night beautifully from the inside, and then they wake up, and for the rest of the day they go back to watching. They check the mail. They scan their circumstances for proof. They return to the seat, wanting, and by evening they have undone the night's work. Neville had a name for the discipline that closes this gap: living in the end. It means you do not treat the fulfilled state as a scene you visit for 10 minutes at bedtime. You treat it as the fact you are living from all day, whether or not the outer world has caught up yet. The end is not a destination you are traveling toward. It is the point of view you inhabit now. In practice, this is a way of carrying yourself through the ordinary hours. It is the small, repeated refusal to step back outside and inspect the distance. When the mind reaches for the old posture of the watcher measuring how far away the wish still is, you decline. You return gently to the assumption that it is already done, and you let the day be colored by that assumption. This is not about pretending in a strained, effortful way. It is about which state you consent to occupy while you wait. You can wait as the spectator, aching at the glass, confirming your lack with every glance, or you can wait as the person who already has it, for whom the arrival is a mere formality. One of those states is the one that hardens into your world. Understand the enemy clearly, because it is not doubt in the way people expect. The enemy is a position, And it is seductive precisely because it feels like honesty. The watcher's posture whispers that you are only being realistic, only checking, only seeing where things actually stand. And every time you adopt it, you climb back out of the scene and press your face to the glass again. Watch for the specific moments it returns. It comes when you refresh for news. It comes when a friend asks how the thing is going, and you answer from lack. Most often, it slips in during the flat middle of an ordinary afternoon. The mind drifts to the wish and, out of habit, drifts to it as a distant object rather than a present fact. Each of these is an invitation to spectate, and each one can be declined. The correction is always the same small move, and it is the whole technique in miniature. You notice you are outside, watching, wanting, and you step back in. You do not need to rebuild the elaborate scene in that moment. You simply reassume the feeling of the thing done, the settled interior tone, right there in the queue or the car or the quiet room. The world you meet is answering the state you keep, not the state you visit. Neville put it in a phrase this channel returns to often. Everyone is you pushed out. The people, the delays, the sudden openings are not independent verdicts on your wish. They are the outpicturing of the state you have been holding. Change the state you hold, and you change what gets pushed out. There is a moment you are working toward, and it is worth naming so you can recognize it when it comes. It is the moment the scene stops feeling like something you are constructing and starts feeling like something you are remembering. The effort falls away. The scene arrives on its own with the automatic, settled texture of a thing that already happened. When imagination reaches that point, the work is essentially finished. This is what all the repetition is for. You return to the same short scene night after night, not to convince yourself by force, but to wear the groove until the scene runs by itself. A memory is not something you strain to believe. It is simply there, accepted, unquestioned. The imaginal act is complete when the wished-for moment has taken on exactly that quality, when it sits among your facts rather than among your hopes. From The Power of Awareness, written in 1952, Neville was unambiguous about the mechanism. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to call it into being. Assumption is not a request sent off to somewhere else. It is the act of taking on the consciousness of already having. And consciousness, he taught, is the one reality out of which every condition is drawn. So the sign of success is not a burst of certainty or a wave of emotion. It is a strange, quiet flatness. The wish stops feeling urgent. It stops feeling like a wish at all. It settles into the calm of the obvious, the way you never feel urgent about your own name. When your desire feels that ordinary, you are no longer the spectator. You have become the one who has it. So bring it back to where we began, to you and the months of watching that seemed to lead nowhere. The failure was never a lack of effort, and it was never a lack of faith. It was a lack of position. You were on the wrong side of the scene the entire time, doing everything right except the one thing that mattered, which was to be inside it. The whole correction fits in a single instruction. Stop watching your life from the seat and step into the moment as though it were already yours. Build one short scene that could only be true if the wish were fulfilled. Enter it behind your own eyes. Feel it until the longing dissolves. Carry it into the drowsy edge of sleep and let it become a memory. Then live from that memory through the ordinary day as the one who already has it. None of this asks you to try harder. It asks you to turn around. The picture you have been admiring on the wall was never going to walk over and become your life. But the moment you rise from the seat and step through the glass, the distance you have stared across for months simply closes, because there was never anyone over there. There was only you and the scene waiting for you to stand inside it. If this way of seeing spoke to you, subscribe and stay close to the work here.